the last presentation for this morning will be by Johannes.
Hello, my name is Johannes Knoedtel, and I'm from the University of Rostock. And maybe I will say a few words about how we came onto this project, because it might be confusing otherwise. So we started the project at the BTU, so the university in Cottbus, and the substitute professor there transferred the project when he came to Rostock as a full professor. So that's the reason why you might read sometimes that that's a BTU project, but it's actually now in Rostock. So we are in the phase of transitioning it. Today, I'm going to tell you a bit about how to protect CGRAs with the HERA methodology. That's a lot of acronyms to start with, but we will explain all of them shortly. So first of all, what is a CGRA? So CGRA stands for coarse-grained reconfigurable array, and they are an adaptable computing architecture. So we had a lot of discussion right now about FPGAs, and they are a bit similar to FPGAs, but they are more coarse. So in an FPGA, you usually program some gates and wire them up. And in a CGRA, you have more broad so-called processing elements, which you can see here. And these usually contain operations like additions, multiplications, anything like this. So they are much more coarse, and they get somehow wired up. The term CGRA is not very well defined, but usually these are the main components that you will always find. Some people also count like the Google TPU or the Iris accelerator for AI into this category. Some people don't count these, so it's a bit of a gray area what this term means actually. But what we will be talking about is an architecture like what you see here on the right. So we have processing elements connected by some interconnects, and these can be programmed in any way you wish. So CGRAs are used because they are more efficient than FPGAs, and they are flexible like FPGAs, can be reprogrammed, but it's not that finely reprogrammable. That's the main difference between these architectures. To give you an idea how this will work in practice, I have a small example here on the right to see how you would use such an architecture, because they are not very well known. And here, this example just adds up a few numbers. So you have data coming in at the top, going into different adder structures, and at the end, you will get the sum of all the inputs out at the bottom. I think it's pretty clear if you look at how the data is flowing through that, what it's actually doing. So this is ideal for parallel processing, and you can do rather complex computations this way. The only requirement you have there is that the computation needs to be a fixed sequence of operations. So anything that does not need any ifs or similar statements can be translated to an CGRA. So very similar to FPGAs in that sense. This provides a balance between the flexibility of an FPGA and the efficiency of such processing elements that have hardwired and multiply and similar operations. Our target here is Industry 4.0, and on the right you can see one of the prospective use cases where we want to employ it, and that's the monitoring of a milling machine. So for predictive maintenance, when you have a milling machine, usually you have a tool holder that holds a tool that has a certain lifetime, and if you get past that, then the tool breaks, and this might damage your machine. This will certainly destroy the current piece you're working on. So you really want to avoid breaking your tool. And there are certain sensors, a microphone and an accelerometer attached to it, and these can find out what the current state is, and you don't have to rely on timing or a person inspecting how the chips that are milled off a workpiece look like. And CGRAs are really well suited to the task because we have multiple different implementations of such algorithms that process the data from these sensors, and we want to be able to put them to use in CGRAs, and all of these are compatible with the model of computation that CGRAs provide. Security concerns are probably the same as FPGAs. So CGRAs are not yet really standard in industry. So we don't have a solid foundation on experience with that. But due to how they work, that can be assumed that, for example, memory safety need to be addressed, and side channels and these kinds of things. Since we are here with the SBOM stuff, we also thought about what are doing, how we can handle modules from different vendors and how do we separate these. And we would not call it SBOM probably, because that's software bill of materials, but firmware bill of materials maybe. There is a methodology that already provides this, but it's not yet ported to CGRAs, and that's the so-called HERA methodology that was proposed by one of my former colleagues, Philipp Holzinger. It is a bit similar to what Cornelia has previously shown here, but with a few key differences. And it's more or less targeted at heterogeneous architectures that are reconfigurable. And here on the right-hand side, you can see a basic diagram that shows how it works. So you have different applications that have different device drivers, and these talk to the hardware via a scheduler. And the thing is that now this currently supports GPUs and FPGAs, but not CGRAs. And with CGRAs, we have a few differences that we will see soon that make it a bit harder, that need new solutions to some of the issues, and that's our current focus. The hardware scheduling is done in something called a packet processor, and that's the hardware component that's responsible for task scheduling and dispatching. And that's the key component where all of the security features we are trying to achieve will be implemented. On the right hand, you can see an image that shows more or less how this works. So from your applications, you get, let's call them work packages that get queued up, and this packet processor will take care of these. The target platform from the CGRA side will be the so-called vCGRA that was developed by a colleague of mine, a former, Florian Fricke, and that's a CGRA architecture that's an overlay architecture on FPGAs. Overlay architecture just means that you're implementing a computer architecture on top of another. And this is very flexible because we can adapt the size and shape of this array of processing elements, and that allows for more rapid prototyping. It also allows us to implement this packet processor directly on the FPGA, and there needs to be no additional chips on any setup we are trying it out on. So Resource sharing and security in CGRAs is a bit different than in FPGAs, because in FPGAs, usually you either have pre-programmed fixed blocks that are accelerators that are already there, or you partition your FPGA statically. And with partitioning, that sounds like a good strategy for CGRAs, but it's actually not really a good strategy. And I have an example for this here. So we have two data flows that should run on this architecture. We call it A and B, and you can see here, I think I should, for the online people, do it with the cursor. Here we have some sum of numbers that gets out here, and we have another data flow that's a bit more complicated. And that's the B one. And if we say, oh, we divide this hardware into half, then we can see that it doesn't fit. So there's one of the elements that would not fit into this scheme. And the reasoning why this is such a problem is because we have interconnects here that are a bit limited. They are not like, you cannot route any data to any other. You have to follow some specific rules. And therefore, we cannot do static partitioning in the CGRA case. Where we could do it in the FPGA case. Had some downsides in the FPGA case, but it was generally more possible. And therefore, we need to find some way to consolidate multiple data flows, which are modules from different vendors and do not rely on static partitioning. But this creates another kind of worms, because that means more side channels now, because now you can make assumptions on what the other modules are actually doing and how they are implemented. So to conclude, we think that CGRAs might play a role in Industry 4.0, but the security aspects are not really well understood yet. But the HERA methodology, as I have shown you, can help with that and can help separate at least modules from different vendors. So I'm finished. If we have some more time, then maybe it's time for some questions.
Dedicated silicon devices already available in the market at CGRA, or is it always something as a mobile?
That really depends on your definition of CGRA. So when I was preparing this presentation, I wanted to find a definition and some examples, and it's really hard to really define what an CGRA is. Some people count like the AI accelerators that are programmable, like the Google GPU, into the same category, while others wouldn't count these. So if you have a very broad definition, then yes, you can buy some of these. But in the academic space, where the more, let's say, traditional programmable architectures rely, they are mostly overlay architectures. So I don't remember any ready devices from the market that you can buy right now that follow the same things you have seen in this presentation.
Especially to an additional layer of firmware. So you have
yes.
Firmware and then dedicated firmware for these.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
HERA becomes
yeah, it becomes a hierarchy of actually, yes, that's correct. But actually, overlay architectures are widespread, I would say. So if you have a soft core for an FPGA, then that's already an overlay architecture. So you're relying on a CPU that's implemented by some other guy on top of your FPGA. That's basically the same thing. But with CPUs, multi-user is much less of an issue than with FPGAs or CGRAs.
Okay, no more questions, I guess. Sorry.
Besides the one, so the application that you visualize in the presentation, is it the one that you will that you are going to target? No?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's exactly the one. So that's an application from back in BTU. There's like this really large overarching project called iCampus, and one of the examples or one of the sub projects is exactly this one. And we have a colleague that has already implemented software implementations for different methods here. And that's why it's a really good example for us, because we have multiple well understood modules that we can implement.
Okay.
Maybe also something stable for make to look into these types of environments to see this. Maybe something that you guys can test out.
Yeah, we can have a conversation with you.
Yes, sure.
Okay, final challenge. Okay, thank you very much.